Today is a fantastic blue sky day at the end of July. It's really, really hot and sunny, hence the baseball cap, stop my head burning. But it's a brilliant time of year to think about autumn planting, and especially if you're thinking about planting hedges this autumn, because you can buy them as bare root plants. But what we're thinking about in particular this autumn is planting a wild hedge using native shrubs and plants. So today we're going to show you around the Norfolk countryside, and we're going to give you some great suggestions of native plants that you can use for that native hedge. And remember, native hedges are fantastic for wildlife as well. They have berries, they have hips, they have all different types of nuts. So they're going to feed those mammals, they're going to provide colour, they're going to provide flower, they're going to provide interest. And because they're native shrubs, they're really tough, they're really strong, and they're completely used to the British climate. One really fantastic shrub for a native hedge is our native holly, Ilex aquifolium. Great thing about it is evergreen. There's not a lot of evergreen shrubs and trees in the UK, so this will keep your hedge looking interesting all the way through the winter. Holly has lovely little white flowers as well, and of course the classic red berry. And you could also pick some holly at Christmas time, couldn't you, with the lovely red berries for those displays inside at Christmas. So think about Ilex aquifolium, the native British holly, very easy to grow, great for shadier places as well. So if you're thinking about a hedge in a shadier part of the garden, perhaps north facing, or as we are at the moment with trees above, holly like this is going to be ideal for those kind of hedges. Ilex aquifolium, the native British holly, that has to be in your native hedge. Hawthorn or Crataegus monogyna is another must for your native hedge. Fabulous, fabulous white flowers in spring. In fact, sometimes the whole plant is so smothered in white flower you can't even see the foliage. And then as it dies down, it turns a lovely pinky colour before the blossom finally falls. And then once all those blossoms have been pollinated, they start to form these lovely berries, which turn a bright red in the autumn. And great, they're loved by mammals and birds. So really, really good food source for creatures into autumn and into winter time. Makes a very nice defensive hedge as well, because you've got the spines on the hawthorn as well, which are good for security if you want a security type hedge. So this is native to the UK, so it's really tough. It'll put up with the British winters, it'll put up with our climate, it'll put up with hot dry summers, it'll put up with very, very cold winters. This one has just been left and is now grown into a small tree shape. But obviously in your hedge, if you keep it clipped, you can shape it, you can keep it into that nice hedge shape, or just let it go a little bit kind of wild and have a loose kind of hedge rather than something too formal. So there you go, hawthorn, really easy to grow, lovely, lovely white flowers, red berries that are great for the mammals and the birds. So go for this in your hedge. You'll really, really be glad you did. Another great character to put in your wild hedge is Rosa canina, or the dog rose. This is it right here. And in the springtime, kind of like April into May time, perhaps early June, they can have white or pink single flowers. Really, really attractive, very beguiling, lovely for the bees and the pollinating insects. They climb, they sprawl. Again, great for a defensive hedge or a security hedge because you've got all the thorns on this as well. And what's happening now is it's starting to form these hips. At the moment, these are green, but in the autumn, they turn bright red. And again, fantastic food source for different birds and mammals throughout autumn into the winter time. So this is another candidate for that wild hedge, Rosa canina or the dog rose. Easy to grow, tough, resilient, doesn't have all the problems of normal cultivated roses, will come back year after year after year, and just is so multifaceted that it's absolutely perfect for that native hedge. Cornus sanguinea or wild dogwood is a great, great shrub for a wild hedge. Firstly, you can see there's berries on here. These berries turn a deep, deep purpley black in the autumn into winter time. But obviously in the spring, there's lovely heads of white flower, which is slightly fragranced as well. So this is another plant in that hedge that's going to provide food for the mammals, for the birds, going to help them get through the autumn and the winter, help to fatten them up before the winter time comes. It's got these lovely, lovely leaves, and some of the stems have got a reddish colour to them as well. This is another shrub that is very tough, very resilient. You can leave it to grow into a bit more of a loose habit, or you can clip it as well and keep it as a more formal hedge, even though it's a wild native plant. This one, left to its own devices, is forming a nice shrub or a tree even. But as I say, keep it clipped, keep it shaped. It can be an integral part of your wild hedge in your garden. It will come back year after year after year. And just to recap, fabulous, fabulous white flowers with a bit of fragrance in the spring. Then in the autumn, you get the berries that turn a deep, deep purple to black in colour. The foliage itself turns a wonderful, wonderful yellowy colour in the autumn as well. So you get great autumn colour from this. And once the leaves have dropped, you've still got the fantastic structure of this plant as well. So this would definitely be a candidate in my wild hedge. Corylus avellana, or simply hazelnut, is another great shrub for your wild hedge. Has those hazelnuts on that the squirrels go mad for. Other mammals love them as well, so it's a great food source. Has these lovely textured leaves. A very tough plant, a very resilient plant. In late winter, you see tiny little red female flowers on here as well, which are quite unusual. And then you get the great big male catkins, sometimes bright yellow, all smothered in pollen. And really, hazelnut is doing something all the way through the year. As I say, even once the leaves have fallen in the autumn, by the way, they turn a lovely buttery yellow before they drop. So you get great autumn colour on these. And as I said, you get the female flowers, late winter, that lovely red colour, then the yellow catkins, then the hazelnuts themselves. It's a tough shrub. It's a real tough candidate for that wild hedge. You can clip it, you can shape it, you can let it grow a little bit more loosely. I mean, this one's grown into a small tree, but of course in a hedge you can keep it clipped, you can keep it shaped. But it's just great to know, isn't it, that you can grow a wild hedge but also provide food for wild animals and also pleasure and joy and colour for yourself in your own garden. Fagus sylvatica, or beech. We've just found this beautiful little beech tree in this lovely glade with the sun shining through. And the leaves look wonderful, super shiny green leaves, lovely shaped leaves on this as well. And beech is another great shrub, or indeed tree, that you can grow in your native hedge. They produce beech nuts, which are great again for the mammals. The squirrels go mad for them as well. And also sometimes when beech trees are very young, they carry out a process known as marcescence, which means they actually keep the dead leaves on the plant all the way through the winter and only shed them the following spring. And there's various ideas as to why trees do this, but it's quite unusual to see shrubs do that. So even in the winter time, you've got a little bit of protection and a bit of privacy from a beech hedge because it still holds those dead leaves. Again, it's very resilient, very drought tolerant, will actually get through any summers, any winters, quite fast growing, happy to be clipped, happy to be left to grow into a bit more of a loose shape. But beech is definitely a shrub that you want to have in your wild hedge. Another native shrub is Taxus baccata, or yew. It's a lovely evergreen plant. Has lovely red berries on it as well. Really tough, frost resistant, drought resistant, grows really well in shade. And this one's actually in a pot at the side of our bungalow, and we're growing it up to screen the wheelie bins behind. We just wanted something wild and natural and evergreen. It's doing that job really well. But also stay with us because we've listed a number of other species that you might want to try in your wild hedge. So I've only shown you a few choices today of the wild shrubs that you can grow in your native hedge. There's many more out there that you can try. And over the recent decades, or over the last century, hundreds and hundreds of miles of British hedgerows have been grubbed up, have been removed, have been cut down. So wouldn't it be great to know in your back garden, in your front garden, anywhere you can now replace some of that lost native hedging. You can get those native plants back in with their flower, with their berries, with their hips, with their nuts, producing food for wildlife, for the birds, for the mammals, producing flowers and colour and interest for you all the year round. And you just know when you're growing these shrubs that have been around for so many hundreds, if not thousands of years, you know, they're so acclimatized to the UK climate that they're going to succeed. They're going to give you that hedge you've wanted, and you're replacing some of those lost hedges. So this autumn, seriously think about planting a wild hedge.